Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to another episode of the Talk Room series of podcasts. In this episode, we examine the question of how to be your best self. We do that by examining mental health and well-being and how this applies to people's lives. For those people who have yet to see any of our previous podcasts, I would like to introduce my co-presenter Ian. Ian is a senior accredited National Counselling and Psychotherapy Society member and the founder of Hope Therapy and Counselling Services. A warm welcome to you, Ian.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you. And for those that haven't had the opportunity to meet you, Wendy, you're a highly experienced CBT psychotherapist, work in private practice, and have been involved in the field of mental health and well-being for well over 30 years now. So as always, an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. And today we're going to be looking at the subject of mythomania and mental health counselling and how we can navigate the complexities of mythomania.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. And as a starter, could you please give us an explanation of what mythomania is?
Absolutely. So excellent question, Wendy. So mythomania is a complicated and often very misunderstood condition, but in its simplest, mythomania is a psychological condition. It's characterized by persistent and compulsive tendencies to lie or to fabricate stories, often without any real clear benefit or any real clear motive for doing so. People with mythomania may lie, they may embellish facts, they may invent elaborate stories, even when there's really no apparent reason to do so. It can have a significant impact on mental health. It can have a significant impact on relationships and overall well-being, as it can really undermine the trust and the credibility with those that we're closest to. So that might include our family, our friends, our partners, and also work colleagues as well. It's often considered as being a form of impulse control disorder, and it might be associated with various underlying psychological factors, including things like self-esteem, a need for attention, or a desire to escape reality. And there's a lot of contributing factors that may relate to the condition.
Okay, so thank you for that explanation, Ian. And I wonder if you could tell us what the characteristics of mythomania are. Are there particular characteristics that can be associated with this condition?
And that's a really crucial question. As I say, mythomania, a very complex behavioral disorder. It can impact mental health. It can impact the well-being of individuals, but also possess really genuine challenges for those people that we're connected with as well. And there's various characteristics which we might associate with condition, both from the perspective of the individual and for those people that are around that person. So we start with this idea of compulsive lying, and that's the primary characteristic of mythomania. It's the compulsive, the habitual tendency to lie, often about trivial, often about unnecessary matters, even when there really doesn't seem to be any obvious benefit or advantage for doing so. So the fabrication of stories. So mythomaniacs may invent or elaborate really fantastical stories with very little basis in reality. And often there can be a real lack of remorse associated with this. So even though they can find themselves being caught in the lie, people with mythomania may seemingly show very little remorse, very little guilt for their behavior or the impacts of the behavior that they're engaged with. Often an intense need for attention, and that can be for very complex reasons. It may be to gain attention, it may be to gain admiration from other people, maybe a seeking of validation in some way, through the storytelling, through the lie that they tell. Often there can be a degree of impulsivity. So the lie may occur impulsively and really without very much forethought at all, driven by some sense of internal urge, some sense of internal compulsion. So the lie may not be thought out. It may not really fulfill a particular end goal. For many people, it really is just that spontaneous act that they engage with. And often with mythomaniacs, or usually with mythomaniacs, we don't really see it as an isolated instance. It's part of a habitual, long-standing pattern of behavior rather than isolated incidents of lying. So those characteristics would apply to the person with mythomania, but we can also look at the impact on those around them, and those can be characterized in various ways. So often there's just a sense of distrust, and understandably those around the person with mythomania may develop that distrust, that skepticism towards the words that they're told because of the frequency of the lies that are being told. And with that can just come a real sense of confusion. So family members, friends, colleagues, partners may just feel very, very confused, very uncertain about what's true and what isn't. It's just that sense of not knowing where you are with things. And for many people, there's an inevitable frustration that comes with that, as the lies can just disrupt the relationship. It can disrupt the communication and the trust that exists between the person with mythomania and the people around them. And again, with that can come a sense of anger, can come a sense of betrayal, just discovering that we've been lied to, and maybe discovering that we've been lied to again by the person with mythomania can just lead to us feeling a sense of betrayal, of hurt, of anger. And we can often find ourselves going on a hunt for the truth, trying to verify the information that we're being told. We go into that process of trying to fact check, to validate, and the constant uncertainty that can come with that, leading to stress on relationships and strain in terms of how we relate to the person with mythomania. So lots of different characteristics, both for the individual, but also for those around the individual as well.
Okay, thanks, Ian. That's very interesting and very comprehensive introduction there. So could you tell us a little bit more about the underlying psychological, neurological, and environmental factors that contribute to mythomania?
A really, really excellent question. And understanding psychological, neurological, and environmental factors is really important when we're considering treatment options, such as effective counselling and therapy. So if we start by thinking about psychological factors, mythomania often stems from underlying psychological issues such as low self-esteem, a need for attention, a need for validation, or a desire to escape reality for some particular reason. And individuals with mythomania may use lying very much as a coping mechanism to deal with internal conflicts and internal insecurities. So addressing mythomania in counselling and therapy involves exploring those underlying psychological factors and developing strategies to improve self-esteem and coping skills. So that's the more psychological aspect of it. The neurological factors are really interesting, and whilst specific neurological causes of mythomania are not completely understood, research does suggest that abnormalities in brain function may sometimes play a role. And we can see from neuroimaging studies that there can be differences in brain activities and brain structure in individuals with compulsive lying tendencies compared to those without. So that's a really interesting reflection around the neurological aspects of things. And then when we think about what we might consider as the more environmental factors, such as family dynamics, social pressures, past experiences, and all of those things seemingly can contribute to the development of mythomania. So individuals who grew up in environments where lying is more normalized or honesty is not be valued in quite the same way, may be more prone to developing compulsive lying tendencies than those that didn't.
Okay, thank you, Ian. And again, a very interesting answer for that. So my next question is, can you say something about the potential triggers for mythomania, especially early childhood experiences that may predispose people to mythomania?
Yeah, so exploring the potential triggers for mythomania within the context of early childhood experiences is really helpful. So when we look at the psychology of the condition, it reveals that early experiences such as childhood trauma or dysfunctional family dynamics may all contribute to the development of compulsive lying tendencies. Individuals who experience neglect or abuse or inconsistent parenting may learn to use lying as a coping mechanism to navigate difficult situations or to gain attention. And counselling for mythomania can involve exploring those early experiences and their influence on current behaviour, helping individuals develop healthier coping strategies. And when we consider other factors, we're also thinking about things like the development of mythomania being influenced by traits such as narcissism, by low self-esteem. And that really highlights the intricate relationship between psychological factors and mental health. Individuals with narcissistic tendencies may engage in compulsive lying as a means of bolstering self-image or maintaining a facade of superiority over other people. And conversely, individuals with low self-esteem may resort to this type of behavior to seek approval or to avoid some sort of confrontation. So there's lots of different really intricate things playing out there.
Okay, again, very interesting, Ian. Thank you. So, how can counselling help with mythomania?
So mythomania, a really complicated condition, but counselling can certainly benefit both the individual who has mythomania, but also those around the individual as well. So if we start by thinking about the individual, counselling and therapy can just provide a safe, a supportive environment for the individual with mythomania to explore thoughts and feelings and behaviors related to the condition. And therapists can just help them to gain some level of insight into the underlying reasons for their behavior. And as I say, that could be associated with low esteem and need for attention, unresolved trauma, things of that nature. And through counselling and therapy, individuals can just learn healthier coping strategies, develop self-awareness, and work towards managing the condition just that bit more effectively. And ultimately, they can improve their own sense of well-being and also the relationships that they have with other people. And then we think about other people, we think about family members and friends, maybe we think about loved ones and work colleagues. And counselling can be a really valuable resource for those people. It can provide a sense of education about the condition, helps people to better understand the individual's challenges, and often strategies for coping and responding to the type of behavior that they're receiving from the person who is struggling with mythomania. We might think about family therapy or couples counselling, and these things can be really beneficial in terms of addressing communication issues, maybe rebuilding trust, strengthening relationships with those people affected by the condition. And overall, counselling offers support, it offers guidance and understanding, it offers tools, both for the individual, but also for those people that are impacted by the condition as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Ian. And so, what I'm wondering is, if people access counselling, what would that look like with someone with mythomania tendencies? Can you say a little bit more about what counselling would typically involve?
Yeah, it's a really excellent question. And I think with it, as with any good counselling, as with any good therapeutic approach, there isn't a one size fits all way of working with somebody. It very much will involve the counsellor or the therapist getting to know who you are, a bit about how mythomania affects your life, maybe looking at the triggers, but some typical things that could be involved might involve things like what we would refer to as psychoeducation. So the counsellor providing some level of education about the condition, about mythomania, including its symptoms, its causes, the impact on mental health, the impact on relationships, and helping the individual just gain some insight into the condition. And that can just be really helpful in terms of reducing feelings of shame, feelings of stigma that might be associated with it. There might be something around exploring underlying factors. So counselling and therapy can often focus on exploring the underlying psychological factor that contributes to mythomania, such as low self-esteem, a need for attention, unresolved trauma, those things that we've talked about. And through that exploration, through that self-reflection, the individual can just gain insight into the root causes of why they engage in that pattern of behavior. Often therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, might play a part. And CBT techniques can often be used to challenge distorted thinking patterns and replace maladaptive behaviors with healthier coping strategies and behaviors. And the individual can just learn to recognize and to modify negative thoughts, negative beliefs, contributing to the mythomania. There might be work done around emotional regulation skills. And again, counselling and therapy can just be really helpful in terms of helping individuals develop the ability to manage emotional dysregulation to help to manage some of the impulses and some of the urges associated with it. Things like mindfulness, relaxation exercises, stress management strategies can all be used to enhance a level of self-control. And then communication skills. Again, counselling and therapy can focus on improving the way in which we communicate with those people that we're closest to. Things like assertiveness and conflict resolution techniques can often be taught, and the individual can learn how to express themselves honestly and effectively without needing to engage in mythomania tendencies. And relapse prevention can often be a part of the work as well. So again, the counsellor and therapist works with the individual to develop ways of managing the risk of relapse, looking at relapse prevention strategies to maintain progress, prevent relapse, and prevent going back into those patterns of compulsive lying that we find ourselves engaging with. And that might be looking at triggers, it might be about developing coping skills, and also just looking at supportive networks as well and what that might look like. So there's lots and lots of different things there. But the important thing is to really stress that there's no single right way of working. Everyone is unique, and therefore there will be uniqueness built into any counselling and therapeutic approach. It's personalised to the individual's needs, the individual's goals, and it's very much about focusing on promoting self-awareness, addressing those underlying issues, and just developing a healthier set of coping strategies to manage the type of behaviours that we engage with.
Okay, thank you. That was a very interesting and very informed piece of information there. So thank you so much for that, Ian. So I'm just wondering if people have listened to this podcast and are looking for professional help, what should they do then?
Yeah, so there are organisations like Hope Therapy and Counselling Services who work with people with a whole variety of mental health and wellbeing needs, both with the person with mythomania, but also with people that are affected by people that have mythomania as well. So people are very welcome to take a look at our website, www.hopeforminds.co.uk. You'll see lots and lots of completely free information on there about a whole variety of different things. And of course, you too, Wendy, as a very, very experienced therapist, work with people that are impacted by conditions of this type. So maybe just say a little bit about yourself and how you can work with people as well, Wendy.
Yes, certainly. So my website is my name, wendycastellino.com, and it has a range of free resources there to help people to help self-regulation, self-esteem skills, assertiveness skills, communication skills, understanding mental health problems. So people are very welcome to contact me via there. And that's it for today. So, Ian, I really want to thank you very much for your very thorough explanation of this very complex condition. And I hope people do get in touch with you and seek further help, especially if they're suffering from it, but also if they know someone, a loved one, who is suffering from it, and they also may need some additional help to understand the condition. So that's it for today, and we'll be developing more podcast series on mental health issues and awareness. So thank you everyone for listening. So it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me, and look forward to seeing you again shortly, Wendy.
Thank you. Bye bye.